Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Data Insights with Gaurav. In the earlier video, we talked about how to load data into Pandas data frame, whether it's hard-coded or different file formats like CSV, JSON, Parquet, and stuff like that, right? If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link in the I button so that you can watch that video. Moving on, now we have the data in our data frame. What we'll do is we'll try to clean that data. So data cleaning is a vital operation before doing data analysis because you would want the data in some particular format in cleaned way so that you can perform data analysis on it. So we will be doing data cleaning in the upcoming videos. Starting off, we will see how to work with columns in the data frame. So in this video, we will see basics around how can we work with columns in the data frame. Practical stuff. So what we'll basically cover is we'll try to cover how can we change column names and their formatting in this video. So we will see how to rename columns, how to use dictionary mapping to do that, and we'll try to convert all the column names to lowercase, and we'll try to replace the spaces in our column names to underscores, and we'll try to apply some custom formatting on our column names, right? So how do we read? So this data, I have already given this link, GitHub link, where we have this data. I'll share that again. So here we're trying to read the Excel data by using pandas read underscore Excel function. So this particular function will help you read the data into the data frame, right? Now, this data frame that you have, it has various columns here, right? And you may find that few columns are not having proper names. Like for example, you have this order date time TZ name, right? Or you may see it has shipping address order period, right? Where it does not have a period. So let's say you want to rename these columns, right? Now, if I want to rename all the columns, right, what can I do? Which can be very few cases, but let's say we want to do that, right? So let's look at all the column names. So df.columns, right, is an attribute of the data frame object that helps you give the column names or labels of that column, right? So if I try to run this df.columns, you can see it gives you all the names of the columns of the data frame. Now, let's say case one where I want to replace all the column name with a new column names, right? What I can simply do is I can replace this df.column names attribute with the list of new column names. So in this case, I have 10 columns. So what I've done is I've renamed all the columns. So I've provided a new list of column names here. And when I run this, all my column names are replaced. So now instead of the older names, I have the newer names here. Now in this case, let's say if I have 10 columns and I give only 9, what will happen? So it should fail because I'm replacing the column attributes and it has 10 columns earlier. So it will not work, right? So what we'll have to do is we'll have to provide the entire 10 column names at one go, right? So you can provide a list of column names here and it will replace the entire column names. Now, in real world, this will be a very rare scenario where you would want to replace all the column names, right? So for doing that, what I'll do is I will replace the entire column list again to back to the ones that it was. Now let's say you want to replace only a few column names. Like for example, you want to replace this order date time TZ name to something else, and you want to replace order period to something else, right? So how to do that? So you have a function called rename in the data frames that takes in a few parameters, right? So if I go to the documentation here, you can see that Pandas has a rename method that takes in a column list, right? So you can see here it takes dictionary like or function, right? So you can give column names in a dictionary here and it will replace the respective or rename the respective column names, right? Alternatively, you can also use the mapper along with axis combination to do that. For example, for columns, what you can do is you can give the dictionary here and then you can specify the axis as 1. For axis means 1 means columns, 0 means rows, right? So when you want to replace columns, the easier one is to just specify columns equal to the dictionary mapper that you want, or you can do mapper here and axis equal to 1. Your choice how you want to do it. I have used columns equal to the mapper that I'm giving, right? So this is a dictionary that I'm giving here, where I'm saying replace your order date time TZ name to order date and rename order period to order year, right? So if I do this, you can see that the column names are replaced from earlier to the new name, right? Now if I have hard coded this, what I can simply do is I can also do something like this. I can create a variable, a local variable here, right? And give the dictionary. Now in this case, I'm just replacing, I realize that this order year is not something that I want. It is 2201, right? So it has a month as well. So what I did order month here. Okay, and I replaced the order status. I renamed the order status to status, right? So I can optionally also do this. I can create a dictionary variable and then pass it along to the column parameter, right? So this will change your name. Like for example, here you can see order status has been replaced with the status column, right? Because we renamed it here, right? So two ways: either you pass the hard coded dictionary directly, or you can give a variable to it, right? Your choice. Now there may be case where I don't like the, you can see the case is different, right? Here you have this sentence case, this is uppercase, right? So I don't like this. I generally want it either all uppercase or all lowercase, right? So that there is consistency across all the column names. So to do that, what we'll do is, what I'm doing here is I want to change the entire column names to lowercase. So how to do it? So what I can do is I can use this df.columns. We know that df.columns gives you list of all the columns, right? So it gives you index like object. So what you can do is you can use .str over it. So now what is .str? So basically it's an accessor. .str is an accessor, right? So what is an accessor? An accessor is like a toolbox that contains your specific tools for working with different types of data. So in this case, .str is an accessor, which is basically a toolbox for working with strings. So you can basically use all the string functions that you have, like for example, lower, upper, replace, and all that. And you can use various functions here. So if I do dot here, you can see that it gives you all the function that the string class supports, right? So in this, I'm using the lower function to lowercase this, and I'm applying it back or replace saying df.columns, and I'm assigning it back to df.columns attribute. So if I do this, all my columns have gone to lower cases, right? So that's how you can, convert the column names to respective cases that you want. Now here again, if you see, I have is space prime. So generally we don't tend to have these like this, because we tend to have underscores within the column names so that it becomes easier for data analysis. So what you can do is you can simply replace spaces within the words, right, with underscores. How to do it? So you'll again use df.columns. You'll get all the columns index, and you'll use the .str, the string accessor, and then you'll use the replace function to replace your spaces with your underscores. So now I'm replacing that and I'm assigning it back to df columns attribute, right? So if I do this, now you can see that customer space underscore uh, customer space ID is replaced with customer underscore ID, right? So that's how you replace spaces if you have any in your data frame, right? And last but not the least, let's say if I want to have some custom formatting, let's say my requirement is I want to add my organization name, right? Like for example, let's say I want to say data insights with Gaurav, right? Let's say this is my organization. So I want to replace all the column names, or I actually want to replace the columns with a new name where every column is prepended with my organization name, right? So how can I do it? I'm using here list comprehensions here. So what I'm doing, I'm reading the df.columns, all the index object, right? And I'm iterating through that. And what I'm doing, I'm appending, prepending, right? I'm adding it before the name right? So let's do this as column name, right? So this is column name. So I'm prepending my organization name. Let's call it data insights with Gaurav underscore column name. And I'm prepending that with the column name, and I'm creating a new list, right? So this is a list comprehension, and then replacing df.columns with the new list that is created by this particular construct, right? So if I run this, you can see that every column is now replaced with the prepended organization name, right? So that's how you will work with columns. So in this video, we simply looked at how to rename the columns, right? All the columns, some set of columns. We also looked at how to convert all the column names to lowercase. replacing the spaces with underscores, and custom formatting if required. Right. In the upcoming videos, we'll work more on columns. Right. There are a lot of things that you can do with columns. Right. So we'll look at that in the upcoming videos. Right. If you like my video, consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the like button. Right. See you around. Thank you so much for watching.